for a BAYS MITC reading, Boobs, Bobs, Bobs, and Bullshit Detectors. And the title is very intentional. It's a little funny, a little blunt, but it traces the emotional arc of the reason that I created this event. It's about the body stuff, visible losses, and the sharpened ability to recognize what no longer serves us. So I'm really grateful to be here with me today, who have had breast cancer, as well as the greater, wider community of friends and family, and everyone else who really wants to hear our stories. So, if you don't know what BAYS is, BAYS stands for Bay Area Young Survivors. MITC stands for Mets in the City, our special support group for those with metastatic breast cancer. It's a community for people who were diagnosed with breast cancer at a young age. And for me, personally, it made a difference in ways that I approached my treatment because I just didn't know many people who were diagnosed at a young age. And also, I just wanted to note, no donations was expected for the event. We just had to use the platform. But we have raised over $2,500 just to continue the event. So thank you so much for the really appreciate that we can have more events like this and support us in many ways that we can ourselves. A few housekeeping things. So as you know, the restrooms are around the corners over there. Let us know if hopefully the line doesn't get too long, but that's where it's located. Emergency exit is through where you came through. Obviously, you could go through the garage, and there's also one there too. Just have to lift up the ladder all the way in the back corner. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you're signed in. We just want to know that you are okay being photographed. If you're not, please be in the back. I think kind of the rows toward the back is where we're not going to be recording. Chris, my husband, is taking photos, so let him know if you do not want to be photographed. We just want to respect that. And I know this space can feel a little cold, but there are blankets around. Some of them are kind of scattered around the couches, so feel free to take one and use one if you feel like you need it at any point. Those are for you. And also there's hot water as well. If you haven't taken a tote or anthology, please take one. I do not want to take it back. We don't want to bring it back to the storage unit, so please take one. And then the other goodies there, I think there's scarves and hats that someone knitted for us, all the little things that that BAYS will provide. So some of the work today, you might hear, is a new work, not an anthology, but an anthology really captures other work that BAYS members have written. So today's reading will just run over an hour. We have 8 readers, each sharing a short piece. And then there's going to be a little bit of a moment of conversation in between. And as Robin has done, passing out the pens and note card, what I'm asking is for you to just write down a few words or lines that stay with you. At the very end, we're going to ask people to come up and share, if you like, just so that we can kind of get a sense and bring this kind of community together about the things that really stay, whether or not you have been diagnosed with breast cancer, or even you just need to feel that moment. Again, these pieces today are very personal and candid. They touch on cancer, bodies, treatments, all the things, as we all know, but some of it might be really absurd. And the things that people say and do, there's so many things around illness. There might be some laughter, so please laugh. There might be some tearful moments, emotional moments. Feel free to express however you feel most comfortable. And one thing I really want to say right now is that I want to acknowledge and Ruby the space that you're in. They generously donated this space to us to support this event. So it's a very important space to me because I'm also a member here, as well as Lauren and Robin, who are at the front, and a few other members here who have come to support us here. The Ruby is a very special place for creators who identify as women and non-binary. So everything you see here was created, shared, donated, all the art, the things on the wall, even this phone booth here, and the furniture, everything was brought together by Ruby members. So you can sense that there's a community here, and I have been a member for several years and was aware of it for even longer than that. So if you feel moved to support a Ruby, I think there's a QR code somewhere in the back, but feel free to ask me if you want to learn more or find them on Instagram to learn if there's any events that you might want to attend. So quickly, the reason I created this event is because I felt like a lot of the stories about cancer tend to be very heroic and inspirational. I am not a hero. I do not save people and learn. I did not become a better person. Everything that I've experienced is much more messier, uncomfortable, funny, and I'm a writer. Obviously, you see my book over there. It's my way of processing what has happened. And so this is just about making space for that, and that's why I created it. So thank you so much for listening and to witness and support these readers. Your presence really matters. And so with that, I'm really honored to begin. So please join me in welcoming our first reader, Abigail. Abigail is a public health researcher whose work focuses on reproductive and maternal health, guaranteed income, and cancer prevention. She was diagnosed with invasive ductal breast cancer at age 31, cervical adenocarcinoma in situ at age 36, and a gastrointestinal stroma tumor at age 43. When she is not dodging medical catastrophes, she writes poetry and tends to her sourdough starter, her cat, and her husband in San Francisco. Give it up for Abigail.
Before I started radiation, I got a pair of cowboy boots. They were caramel colored with a pointy toe and a fuzzy lining. They had a small heel and just enough swagger. They were the most expensive shoes I had ever bought myself. After months of diagnostic testing and medical decision-making, 6 rounds of chemotherapy, a major surgery, and weeks of recovery, I wanted to buy myself something luxurious. Something to prove that the me that I was before cancer was still there. Every morning at 10 o'clock, I would check in at the reception desk. The same process every day, proving that I am me. Stating my name and the day I was born, showing my ID to confirm that it matches the photo of me in the computer system, a photo they took in this very reception room at my first appointment. Next, accepting an ID bracelet that was fastened around my wrist. A small plastic trophy to congratulate me for being me. As if someone would want to take my place. Then the locker room. As if I was getting ready to run on a treadmill or swim laps. I would get a clean hospital gown from the shelf, choose a locker on the top row, slide the curtain closed in the dressing room and strip from the waist up, including my jewelry. Lock up my clothes and a tube of lotion to rub on my chest afterwards. Sit down in the next waiting room, look at the stack of magazines, wait for my radiation technician to call me. If I had to be half naked, I might as well have some serious boots on my feet. They created a thick, comforting layer between my legs and the world, when the rest of me was wearing only a thin cotton gown. My technician would often remark on the boots, clearly enjoying my choice. She's wearing her boots today, watch out. As if I was going to raise hell while being zapped with lasers. But I had to take the boots off before lying down on the machine. I would remove them carefully, pressing my palm against the back of my heel, slide them off one at a time, and leave them standing side by side against the cabinets. Without my legs inside, one would often deflate slightly and lean against the other one, almost as if to say, we're a little tired, but we're holding each other up while we wait for this to be over. It is confusing how exposed you can feel while still being half-dressed, as if the pants and underwear and socks only make the rest of your body more naked. As if part of your body is just going about its regular day, doing some errands, maybe meeting a friend for lunch, while the naked part of you is on a different planet. The week before my first appointment, the technician expertly arranged my body on the machine and made a careful styrofoam mold of my arms so that I would always lie in exactly the same position every time I lay down. The cabinets in the radiation room were full of these personalized molds, some of the larger ones hanging from hooks like mannequin parts. They also gave me 3 tiny tattoos, small black freckles, one on either side of my chest and one in the middle. The first one, on my mastectomy side, I could not feel. The second one, right on my sternum, made me jump off the table. Sometimes I still sleep with my arms above my head, like I'm waiting for a beam of light or a scalpel. The zap itself is the fastest part of the whole procedure. Before I can relax in my careful position, it's over. The machine retracts, the technician comes back in to help me sit up. I chat with him, put my boots back on, and strut out to the rest of my day.
What surprised you the most when you reread this later?
I was chatting with some of the other BAYS readers before the event started. I was diagnosed in 2009, which means it's been a while since I went through treatment for my breast cancer and had this radiation experience that I describe in the piece. And what is hard to imagine when you're going through something that is totally determining every moment of every day is that soon it will become kind of a blur and you will forget things about it. So I started thinking about this piece and the meaning of the cowboy boots years after I went through radiation, but there's things that I wrote about that I wouldn't remember if I hadn't written them down. And I always tell that to friends of mine who are going through treatment now or who are about to start treatment, because a lot of the time it really is just about getting through it, and then it becomes kind of a blur in your rearview mirror.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Tova. Tova has lived in the Bay Area for more than 20 years. She is a public sector attorney and currently lives in Alameda with her tween age son. She was diagnosed with bilateral breast cancer in 2019. Her writing has been published in the Wildfire magazine as well as the Bay Area Young Survivors Anthology. Coming to terms. Thank you, Tova.
I think I might be the only one actually reading something from the anthology, but I do have a couple of pieces in there. I'm going to read one of them, Benign Ganglion Cyst. A mass appears on the underside of my wrist, seemingly overnight. It is probably harmless. It could be metastatic cancer, my mind whispers. I ice it, I heat it, I take ibuprofen, the lump gets bigger. I am visiting my oncologist for an injection so my brittle bones don't shatter. She is only mildly concerned until I tell her it appeared just 2 days ago. She becomes concerned. I am scheduled for an urgent ultrasound. Probably nothing to be worried about, I think. Or is it bone cancer and the final countdown of your life has begun, my mind murmurs. I lie there in the sterile white room as the ultrasound technician applies warm, sticky lubricant. She moves the wand over the lump. Click to the left, click to the right, click down my wrist, click, click, click. When the technician is done, she wipes my wrist and asks me to wait while she consults the doctor. 5 to 10 minutes, she says, as I lay in the dark. A tear runs down my face. The unfinished business of my life floats behind my eyes. The time ticks by. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, My mind wanders, and I try not to look into the dark corners. But look at your child, he'll be motherless, my mind shouts. My mind overwhelms the tiny sprouts of optimism I've been nurturing. These are your last days, my mind screams. And I know this is the sly trap of cancer I can't stop myself from falling into. Every scan and test reminds me that even though my cancer was excised, I haven't beaten cancer. My mind holds on to the knowledge that the cancer could simply be dormant, waiting. After the test is done, I sit in my car, in the dark, in the silence. I check my electronic medical chart and hit refresh, almost robotically. The report pops up, a blessing that it is so quick. Imaging shows a benign ganglion cyst. The weight lifts from my shoulders. My mind goes silent. I get to live.
What was something that you wish people knew?
So I think probably I'm not alone in this, but I think something I wish people knew is, and I think it says it in my piece, is that cancer is not really over. I mean, you can have months of chemo where you burn it out, and you can have full surgeries, and you can have radiation, and you can continue on for years, 10 years on maintenance therapies. But it's sort of like, I've looked it up, it's a sword of Damocles. So there's this sword, and it's suspended above Damocles' head by a hair. And it's like that. So that's what I guess I want to know. I did just want to read one more thing about my, not like a piece, just how it feels. So I have another piece in this Wildfire magazine, and I just wanted to say, so that here I am post-treatment. My mind and body have been so altered that I can no longer be the person I was. I endured 5 months of chemotherapy, a marathon surgery involving amputation of both breasts and removal of my ovaries and fallopian tubes, and then 6 weeks of radiation. I entered instant menopause at 43 and take medication to deprive my body of even the smallest amounts of estrogen. So it's that thing that is sort of transformative. You just really can't be the person you were before. So thank you.
Molly hails from Vallejo. She's a mom, works in tech, and was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma in October 2024, age 38. She lost her sister to metastasized invasive ductal carcinoma just 1 year before that. Thank you, Mom.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for hurting all the kittens. Me specifically. She's dead, it read, in pink metallic shimmery marker. My 6-year-old daughter had drawn a picture of my sister lying in the center of the page with little squares of faces labeled with our family members all around her. My daughter drew this at her school counselor's office the day my sister passed, before I had a chance to hug my baby and tell her about her beloved aunt in person. She's dead. She lost her battle with cancer. I hate that phrase. Lost the battle with cancer. Cancer didn't win. Fuck cancer. Cancer, the thief who robbed me of my sister, the twisted thief who eventually turned to death as I held its hand, holding on to threads of life as they were being slowly pulled away. My sister, my ride or die, my best friend, slowly pulled away from me. Then came grief, the wild beast that orbits my heart. I dance with grief, holding life in my hands. It's still fresh and raw and generally unexamined, yet it shows up every single day, multiple times a day, as life goes on. I think of my sister, her fear, and what she must have felt as I sit on the oversized vinyl chair in the stiff gowns, the scratchy rubber-soled socks, looking at the cheerful patient-made art on the walls. I was diligent, regular mammograms, MRIs, a couple of biopsies, only to hear 1 year later of my own diagnosis, my own thief, a quiet thief who propagated from the inside, silently growing, multiplying, plotting, in my own cells, stealing my time, my energy, my health deductible, my HSA, my mental health, my brain, my cells, my sex drive, my natural menopause, my desire, my job, my own body betrayal, and the questioning associated. Like an earthquake makes you doubt the stability of the earth, or a tornado makes you mistrust the sky. My own fucking body turned on me. It harbored the enemy, fed it, sheltered it, gave it tools. Was it the lies I told? Was it the guilt I feel? The stress that I let run rampant? Maybe I have cancer because that time I felt rage, or I felt hate, or I internalized injustice, or drank the poison. I just want to call and tell my sister. And how do I tell mom? I have surgery, radiation, I join groups, but I'm a cheat. I don't belong. I didn't really have cancer because it wasn't as serious. I didn't have chemo. I still have my boobs. I got lucky. Lucky that my big sister's cancer and death saved me. I'm grateful. And I'm angry. I am so angry and I'm tired. I am so fucking tired. To my bones, to my cells. I need a nap. I need 1 million naps. 1 year of sleep. The weight of the world, plus grief, plus illness, plus trying to survive is just too much. It's not making me stronger, it's just slowly sucking away my joy. And what is life without joy? I take a deep breath. I think about joy. I feel the sun and wind on my skin. I want to see the stars in the sky, and the coral in the sea. I want to eat all the foods and go all the places and say stupid stuff with friends, with people who see me, who love me, who don't question me, who authentically show up and appreciate the ways we talk about the world and our lives. The people who say, I love you, who laugh until we can't breathe, and then the laughing makes us laugh even harder. The way I did with my sister. I want the fire and the dance and the boredom and the peace and the soft belly giggles of my babies, the hugs and snuggles and the kisses on bruised knees. All these things. I want to feel these things. I want to share these things to call or text. When my son builds something clever, or my daughter misses her aunt or says something profound, or when I get a parking ticket, or it's mid-morning of Christmas, or a random Tuesday afternoon. I want to call my sister, my ride or die. I reach for my phone and then rushing heart pang. Oh yeah, she's dead.
So what's something that you wish people understood about your experience?
I'll try and keep this succinct, but I think hopefully it came through and just the raw, almost rambling of what I finished writing this morning. It's so much. It's so much, and we each carry so much, regardless of a cancer diagnosis. But I think those of us who also understand this space and the BAYS, just, it's that much more in that direction. And I guess I'm just grateful to have people who understand and hold that space and show up, even when you're not going to say the right thing, or you're not going to do the right thing, and that's fine. Just showing up and saying, I don't know how that feels, and I'm not going to do the right thing. At least you're there.
Thank you so much. So we have Luna. Luna is a Palestinian-American long-term journalist flexing her writing muscles in tech to support her travel habit and career. She worked around the world before returning to her native San Francisco Bay Area. Luna has written for the Associated Press, produced a CNBC half-hour monthly TV series from the Middle East, and won awards for her short documentary on the history of black jazz in San Francisco's Fillmore district in the 1940s to the 50s. Give it up for Luna.
I'd say I've always had a strong connection to nature, and not just growing houseplants and taking hikes. I relish in feeling my own rhythms carried by the cycle of the seasons, blossoming, fruiting, raging, shedding, waning, resting. But nothing has had the same effect on connecting me to nature, quite like facing my mortality and assaulting my body with life-saving medical treatment, cancer treatment. Surprise, you're 43, feel a lump, nonchalantly go over the mammogram and ultrasound, quite unbothered, and it's almost certainly breast cancer. In that fraction of a second of stop time, how can so many questions and possible realities appear at once? Will I die? Will I die soon? Has it spread? Will I lose my breasts? Will I suffer with chemo? Will my family have to mourn my absence? Will people say nice things about me at my funeral? And I swear, almost instantly, the thought, thank God I did all that crazy shit in my life. 3 months later, it's fall of 2024. Yes, it was cancer. Yes, I will die someday. No, I won't die soon, not from this. No, I didn't lose my breasts, just a little tissue and the tumor. No, it hadn't spread. No, I wasn't supposed to have chemo, but yes, I will. Chemo would give me a small benefit, so I sucked it up and made the hardest decision of my life, accepting 4 rounds of medicinal poison right into my veins, 3 weeks apart. And this story is about those 3 winter months in my bed, hanging out with the tree outside my bedroom window, and with my senior tuxedo kid boots. When I moved into this apartment facing an urban courtyard in Berkeley back in July 2019, I hadn't taken too much note of the tree outside my second floor window, tall, grand, and exploding with showy green summer leaves. They browned, they fell, the tree became bare, and then I tracked my first spring's slow approach through its buds and expansion. And that next June, what I had just missed when I moved in the prior July, the little green buds turned into little round things, and the round things turned into orange apricots. An A-list fruit, if there ever was one. Expensive, delicious, and occupying a notoriously brief season of ripening. There's a phrase in my native Arabic language, bukra bin mishmish. The idiom says, tomorrow with the apricots. Because the season is so fleeting, it's a way to tell someone, yeah, right, or sure, whatever, maybe someday. Like, it's not going to happen, basically, to blow them off. For the next years in my apartment, just me and Boots, the apricot tree signaled to me not just calendar time, it anticipated wisdom about my own energy. It's time to open and be active. Now it's time to release and shed. And now time to quietly rest in the dark, knowing that soon another cycle of blooming would inevitably be on the way. Like a loose translation of the Tao saying, nature never hurries, yet everything happens. The apricots were a joy of my life when they came, crisp, soft, sweet, tart, carrying all that energy and potential of a seasonal cycle into my mouth for a moment of ripe summer pleasure. Each harvest morning, I would look hopefully and longingly from my window to search for any ripe apricots tucked among the leaves, and then go downstairs to get a few and eat them for breakfast, Boots watching from her bed in our second floor window. I had my first chemo infusion on November 12, 2004. My family and I decided I would try cold capping to try to save as much of my hair as possible. I knew that hair falls out predictably around days 14 to 21 after the first infusion. But not me, right? I'd left my thick, curly hair long in its cute little shag, optimistic about the promised success the cold caps would deliver. Right before Thanksgiving, right on time, the shedding started. Strands of hair turned into handfuls, long, thick ones, like horrifying, and it kept going. On those 4 days around Thanksgiving, the world surrounding my apricot tree outside the window turned appropriately stormy and windy. On those 4 days that 70% of my hair came out in my hands as I stood in the bathroom, proving to me that I had cancer and my cells were being destroyed by chemo. On those 4 days, windstorms wiped out every single brown leaf on my apricot tree too. Wow, I guess I really am connected to nature. The tree was now bare once again, because that's what it does. But now it was my turn to share the experience. Over that winter, the effects of chemo became progressively harder, and more of my hair, most of my hair, fell out. Neither cancer diagnosis nor 3 surgeries had dragged down my emotional resilience or humor, but chemo broke me. I cried to my therapist. I cried at the chemo nurses. I said things like, I can feel it tearing me apart from the inside. But in quiet, reflective moments in the bed, I looked over at the bare tree. Its leaves always came back. Nature doesn't hurry, yet everything happens. My hair would come back too, it reminded me. Just wait. I thought about how the next return of the apricots would mean I was done with my cancer treatment, that it would be a year since my diagnosis, and maybe I'd be back to a more normal, new life, a new head of hair growing just like the tree, both of us in sync. I remember writing down a little vision I had. It was of me strolling through the Berkeley Farmers Market the following summer, happily encountering a stall of apricots in this forthcoming future time of cancer overness. I still now deeply remember those months of chemo winter, of fantasizing about a sunny farmer's market discovery of apricots and my hat-free head, and that vision kept me going. Anyway, back to the chemo time. I wore beanies every day to cover my head, which looked simultaneously like a baby's, where you can see their scalp, and an old man's comb-over. Every day I would also look at the tree for any signs of little green ambassadors of growth and renewal. Inspect the tree, inspect my head. Nothing today, nothing for a while. Nature doesn't hurry. Chemo finally ended in January, and it took me a full month to recover, to not be out of breath just walking down the block. Then my treatment ended in March, on my last day of radiation, the same week that my hair started to fill back in. The tree transformed again from a collection of brown, bare, skyward-reaching branches to living speckles of new green growth. When the fleeting window of apricots returned in June, as predicted, as I had dreamed of, like nobody had ever dreamed of apricots before, my 1-year anniversary of cancer diagnosis also approached. The transition last summer was cinematically huge and profound. My energy was returning. I'd survived cancer. I had a big new job, and I was packing up 6 years of living in this apartment to move to a new dream home with a garden that I'd been searching for at least 2 years. I ate a ton of apricots those weeks, knowing it was my last summer with the tree. So June brought apricots, the new job, and signing a new apartment lease that had both my name and Boots's, and closure of a year of cancer treatment. But as my apartment filled with boxes and packing, sweet 17-year-old Boots began to not eat. My packing and work focus got pushed aside by emergency vet visits, appetite stimulants in a syringe, and anticipatory grief. One day before my move, it was time to call the vet so that Boots could transition off to kitty heaven in her bed in her beloved, comfortable home. When it happened, I was next to Boots as she fell asleep for the last time in her bed, next to the window, right under the apricot tree. Watching the tree bloom and wane had been one way to connect with nature. But death is the biggest confrontation yet with the inescapable cycles of life, a devastating one this time. I've been in my new apartment for 7 months now. I pick lemons from the tree outside my door. I just set up a huge planter bed in the backyard with vegetables and got a jasmine. I have 2 little panther kittens running around and a framed picture of Boots and her paw print. I have to be careful when I talk about the last year to not sound celebratory because nothing is worth getting cancer for. But somehow after I said goodbye to Boots and goodbye to the apricot tree, I got so many things I've been dreaming of during those winter days of chemo. Dreaming and reminding myself that nature doesn't hurt you. Yeah, everything hurts.
Differ from the writing that you do for work?
The 2 kinds of writing I've done for work are journalism and marketing, and with both there's a concise, condensed, there's a right way to write it, and there's an it's a sort of different kind of exercise, whereas this kind of like Abigail said at the start, just come to me and not when I was sitting and writing. And I would have to take notes, like the farmer's market vision. When I started seeing that, I wrote it down and I never ever remembered. And so it just comes from somewhere else, voices that come and get captured. So they're very different than professional tech and journalism writing.
Thank you so much. Katrina is a civil rights turned local government lawyer. She dreamed of being a fiction writer as a child, but she spent most of her adult life writing dry legal briefs. She recently returned to creative writing as a form of self-expression and emotional processing after going through breast cancer twice in the course of a year and a half. She lives in Oakland with her fiance and her rescue Australian cattle dog. Welcome, Katrina.
High enough. So mine's a little bit different. I'm going to read a few vignettes and then close with a poem. Boomer. Boomer, no, drop it, I yelled mid-sentence while calling my friend Kate to tell her that I had breast cancer. Kate later told me that she was shocked by the news, but also very confused about who Boomer was and why I was shouting at him. I'll never know what possessed me to pick up a disobedient, traumatized foster dog just hours after getting the call from my doctor. It could have been denial mixed with guilt about letting the rescue down. I'd already agreed to foster him after all, and they told me that he was a good boy who just needed a chance. But I think it may have been more selfish. My gut told me that I would desperately need an untrained 60-pound ball of muscle and mischief to distract me from the terror that was just beginning to close in. Then again, I didn't yet know that I had a don't Google it diagnosis, a highly aggressive breast cancer subtype, or that I'd have to start chemo so quickly. I also didn't know just quite how bent on destruction Boomer was, from garden beds to couch pillows to the sleeves of my jacket, while I was still wearing it. And I didn't realize just how strong he was, virtually immovable with his hind legs braced. Those early days after my diagnosis are mostly a blur of appointments and tests and excruciating waits for results. But I remember Boomer so clearly. There was a moment that I got him to sit quietly on the couch with me. I even proudly snapped a selfie to document our training progress. But that's all it was, a moment, before he was back to power shredding and rogue tug-of-war games. Eventually, friends convinced me to take Boomer back so I could concentrate on treatment. Even months later, I felt guilty, like I'd failed Boomer. I imagined him still cooped up and kennel-crazed. A short time later, I went to get my first post-chemo haircut from my stylist, shout out to fellow BAYS member Jamie, and volunteer for Boomer's rescue. It had only been a couple of months since I'd learned that despite the aggressive cancer, I'd responded well to treatment and had a positive prognosis. I told her the good news, but also my regrets about Boomer, and I wondered aloud what had happened to him. She excitedly told me that he'd finally been adopted, and that his new family adored him. She slipped her cell phone out of her pocket and quickly pulled up an image of Boomer, master of mischief, posing quietly in front of his family's Christmas tree, nary a pine needle disturbed. I squeezed my eyes shut as I felt a rush of relief that he landed somewhere safe, and that, like me, he'd been given another chance. Passenger seat. I slid into the passenger seat on a slick contractor bag, a tip from someone who'd gone before me, who knew the challenge of getting a body sliced and sewn hip to hip into a car without bending. My mom, frazzled and anxious, turned my legs forward and buckled me in, something I imagined she hadn't done in 35 years. She gently fluffed the pillows in my lap as I positioned the tubular cat stuffy I used to guard my breast incisions from the seatbelt. The cat's arms were stuck up in perpetual surprise, as though it had been held up at gunpoint. The silly sight made me chuckle before I stopped and clutched my stomach in pain. "Don't make me laugh," I said to myself. We were headed down the freeway for an urgent doctor's appointment. I'd snagged the last spot for the evening, even if it meant going all the way through the tunnel, almost an hour in traffic. I looked over at my mom, who was deep in concentration, trying to rush and drive carefully at the same time. She suddenly slammed on the brakes as red lights flashed in front of us. I drew in a sharp, deep breath as the seatbelt tightened. Luckily, the burning across my stomach subsided almost as quickly as it came on. As we drove, I cringed in embarrassment, thinking of how I was going to explain walking into the doctor's office at 6 p.m. in a bathrobe, hunched over a walker, fresh wounds and 6 drains spilling from my body like wayward tentacles, all to be seen for a yeast infection. Thinking about it sent the shame shards deeper. I knew it wasn't my fault. A 10-hour surgery, a catheter, heavy antibiotics, 3 days in the hospital with no shower. Still, the crimson crawled up my neck and onto my cheeks as I recalled the surgical nurse carefully redirecting me to my primary care team for that unfortunate problem. Mort the port. My body remembers the first moment I felt like I'd been stabbed in the neck with a fork. I clutched the tender spot, tracing my finger along the taut wire arcing over my collarbone and disappearing deep into my chest. It remembers each time the icy saline entered my veins and tickled my heart, forcing a delicate cough. Mortimer. Mort the port, I called it, hoping that by imagining it as a sweet grandpa, it might feel just a little bit less violent and remind me that it was helping save my life and my veins from the poison pumping through my body. My body remembers the children staring at my chest by the pool, wondering what kind of alien form lived just beneath my skin, with its tiny nodes looking as though they might burst through at any moment. My body remembers the triumphant exhale as the nurse plunged the hefty needle through Mort for the 25th and last time. Then the tightness in my chest. Would it be the last time? Oh, and how my body remembers the thunderous jolt when I was told just 5 months later that I had a new breast cancer. And the shudder that followed, realizing that Mort might have to come back, live in my chest again, every minute having to resist the urge to claw it out, that fork stuck in my neck. An ode to the upper pole, not to be confused with the North Pole, although on second thought, maybe the top of my former breasts bore a passing resemblance to snow-capped slopes, down which a polar bear or an elf could gleefully glide. No bones to bump along or divots to fall into, just smooth lines from collarbone to nipple. What generous, fleshy curves I once had, like billowy campfire marshmallows pressed together against cellophane. What softness that I once took for granted, fullness that I did not think enough. My eyes now settle enviously on a low-cut top, the wearer's upper pole rising magnificently over a sports bra. I touch my newly gaunt chest, skin varnished to my ribs, and wince a little. And then I smile, recalling my dear, lost upper pole.
share.
So most of those pieces were actually from a writing workshop at Wildfire Magazine, who many of you know, but it's a sort of writing and magazine for breast cancer, young breast cancer survivors, and the founder of that organization often does free writing workshops for BAYS members, which is really wonderful and very healing, and gives writing prompts and lets you just sort of free write. And I was really surprised at sort of like what came out, like what came to my mind when just given a prompt like my body remembers. Another one of them, the prompt was, it happened in the car. And I immediately remembered the moments rushing through traffic, trying to get to the doctor. I never necessarily intended to share any of those pieces, but when the opportunity came up, it felt really good to sort of work on them a little bit more and then work out some more pieces that sort of helped integrate some of these experiences. Because having it all knocking around in your head all the time is a little bit too much to carry. Thank you.
Is a Bay Area native and nurse by profession, a proud cat mom of 2 feisty young cats and a breast cancer survivor. She was diagnosed at age 40 with stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma after her first mammogram. God willing, next year she will mark 3 years cancer-free. She feels at peace when hiking in the regional parks, cooking for loved ones, or listening to and singing along with music, while she doesn't think of herself as a writer. Here she goes.
There's a window. Amid the work, hustle and bustle, amid the demands, the busy and the frantic, there is a window. It's not a private window. It's tucked down a lesser-known corridor on the 10th floor. Not too many people pass by it. It's a small, narrow window. The view is partially obstructed by the side of a building, but if I stand just so, there's expanse. I see the ocean, the blue-gray Pacific Ocean. It looked so calm and peaceful from way up here. On most days, the view is not only blocked by the building, but there's the blanket of fog rolling swiftly and steadily into the bay. Sometimes I might see the tops of the Golden Gate Bridge, even if it's just the tops, because the fog is low that day. If I'm lucky, I can see across the water to the cliffs of the Marin Headlands on the other side. In the springtime, if we've got plenty of rain, then those hillsides are a vibrant green, so alive. They're like a beacon inviting me to adventure amongst them. Looking out this window is my quiet place, my peaceful, quiet place. Somewhere I can go to clear my head and gather my thoughts. So, one day, one otherwise typical Thursday, September day, when my phone rang in the middle of work, and upon a quick glance, I recognized the number to be my doctor's office calling, likely with my biopsy results. My heart skipped a beat. Was I fine? Was everything okay? Truth be told, I had really not thought much about my biopsy I had the 3 days prior, or I was trying not to think about it. I have nothing to worry about, I told myself when my thoughts drifted there. I'm young and I'm healthy, I reassured myself. It was just a false positive on the mammo. It happens all the time. I mumbled something into my phone about being in a shared office and needing a minute to find my quiet place. I rushed to my peaceful, quiet window. Your results are positive for basal ductal carcinoma. What? I only know what one of those 3 words means. Carcinoma, cancer, is not a word anyone wants to hear, ever. I've stopped listening at this point to what is being said by the person on the other end of the phone. I will make you an appointment this afternoon to speak with our breast care coordinator. Now there's a lump in my throat, so big I don't think I can swallow, and my knees feel weak and wobbly, and I feel like there's cotton in my ears. Sound is muffled and far off. It's suddenly hard to breathe. I know I'm looking out my window, but I can't see anything. I can't focus on the ocean. Is there fog today? Did I see the tops of the bridge? What shade of green were the headlands? I can't say. Do I really have cancer? I don't feel sick. Is there treatment? How will I get through this? Will I get through this? Where's my peaceful window now? The blue-gray ocean buried under layers of fog. The Golden Gate Bridge nowhere to be seen today. The green, playful cliffs of the Marin Headlands obstructed from view. Where's the peaceful, calm expanse? Will the sun ever break through this fog again?
If you could respond now to that moment, the call, what would you say?
I think this piece has a lot to do with the shock and the sadness. I think that if I were to write something today, it would probably have to do with the anger. Somebody else said something about a thief, and that really resonated with me. I think there's also the loss and being 40 and losing or changing breasts. That's somewhere I think I want to explore too.
So much. Alejandra is a teacher, swim coach, returned Peace Corps volunteer, and will be a 3-year triple-negative breast cancer survivor this February. She is 35 years old and lives in Salinas, California with her lovely husband, Travis, her pup Rural, and 2 cats, Maleficent and Queen. She cares deeply about family, surfing, caring for our planet, and writing. Her happiest state is riding a wave or snuggling with her loves. Most of her writing is done through expressive journaling, but one day she dreams of being published in the Wildfire magazine or another form of print.
Can you hear me? Okay. So, a little closer. Okay, lessons from surfing. Fear creeps up inside of me as I see a big wave advancing on the horizon. I get into position, periodically eyeballing the wave over my shoulder as it builds in height. I look forward and initiate my super paddle as I try to match the speed of the wave. I lean forward and double down with my strokes, eyes glaring up in the direction I want to go. Helps to combat any momentary doubts and tells my body what to do when the fear creeps in. Look, feel. This simple rule can be applied to life alongside the surf. If I remember to keep my head up and read what's ahead, I will be better equipped to respond to what life offers up. If I plant my feet down, I can remain grounded in the present moment.
And lastly, if I surrender to feeling the ebb and the flow of life, I can lean into the highs and ride out the lows without judgment. Lesson number 2. Sometimes you just need to let the set keep setting. After catching a wave all the way into shore, it is tempting to turn right around and paddle directly out for the next wave. Often you might get caught in the impact zone, trying to push through giant waves. You might even end up on a treadmill, paddling your heart out and getting nowhere. If you're patient, there's a small window of opportunity to paddle out between the big sets. We call this the lull. As my best friend phrased it at a recent surf retreat in Costa Rica, sometimes you just need to let the set keep setting. This concept rings true in surfing and in life. We are often up against what feels like endless waves of difficulty thrashing us around, one obstacle after the next. I'm recalling vividly when I was in treatment and felt like I hit every road bump possible along the path to recovery. From low white blood cell counts and delayed chemo treatments to elevated liver enzymes and a rock-hard implant, I felt like I couldn't catch a break. I was scared and I was frustrated beyond belief. Looking back with a surfer's point of view, I can see that these setbacks were in fact the set waves hitting me head-on in the impact zone. I was forced to take a step back and pause in order to complete my treatments on a different timeline. Maybe it was not as quickly as I would have liked, but I did get through them eventually. In other words, I had to let the set keep setting and wait for the break in order to access healing. Surfing has taught me that patience in the face of adversity usually pays off. Lesson number 3. There will always be another wave. These days, I struggle with the concept of time. I often feel as though there is a ticking clock over my head as I move through survivorship. I have FOMO about things I may miss out on in the future, even though nobody's future is guaranteed. When out surfing, I often feel as though I need to catch as many waves as physically possible and make leaps and bounds of progress quickly, since my time may be limited. I know this is not a healthy way to live. Just like the universe disrupted my personal timeline with a cancer diagnosis at 31, the ocean could care less about my agenda with surfing. It constantly challenges me to sit in the unpredictability of it all. There have been plenty of days where I find myself frustrated with the struggle to catch a wave. The sense of urgency and desire to control leads me to push myself past the healthy dose of ocean time. My body has started to deteriorate due to the overexposure of sun and salt water. I have surfer's eye and severe eczema now because of my insistence with this sport. When surfing, which was meant to be my happy place, starts to affect my attitude and my body, it is time to listen to the message sent to me loud and clear. The ocean is trying to tell me to slow down and not rush the process. It is saying to me she will always be there for me, and that there is no need to push myself to the point of self-detriment. In a fleeting thought, as I paddle for another wave that I miss, the ocean is letting me know that there will always be another wave, just on another day. The surfer Steve Hawk captured this message from the ocean so eloquently by saying, "The best wave of your life is still out there." This quote deeply resonates with me because it helps me to reframe my fear of missing out into the promise of a better day, whether it be in or outside of the water.
A moment that didn't make it into the piece.
There were several lessons. It's pretty brief, but I have a quick lesson number 4. I'll squeeze in really quickly. Lesson number 4. If a baby sea turtle can get out back, so can I. Okay, during my surf retreat this winter in Costa Rica, I had the opportunity to witness baby sea turtles making their hatching crawl to sea. They intuitively know to follow the light of the ocean's horizon. It was deeply moving to watch their instinctual courage and naive tenacity as they scrambled toward the crashing waves. I was inspired and grounded by them. They reminded me of my own fighting instincts. They represented the fragility of life, but also the thrill of it all. I couldn't help but think that some of them were enjoying the swell picking them up just like I do. They made an impact on me, and taught me that if a baby sea turtle can make it out back past the surf, so can I.
It's my honor to introduce our organizer, Jennifer. But before I do, on behalf of myself, our fellow readers, and Bay Area Young Survivors, thank you, Jennifer, so much for all your hard and loving work putting this event together. Okay. Jennifer Ng is an Asian American fiction and creative nonfiction writer. She wrote Ice Cream Travel Guide, a book that documents her conversations with ice cream makers around the world. Her nonfiction and fiction work has appeared in Anomaly, Quiet Lightning, and elsewhere. She has been selected for workshops and residencies with Tin House, Kenyon Review, Hedgebrook, and Rooted and Written. She's currently working on a sweeping historical novel about Chinese families divided across countries and generations. This week marks 1 year since her first breast cancer treatment and mastectomy.
10 moments that I felt pain in the last year, and 1 that I didn't. 1, each time I got my eyebrows threaded. I started by leaning back in the plush chair as the esthetician pumped up the seat height. Scoot up, she said, just a little further. I closed my eyes and braced for the scrape, pinch, scrape motion of the thread running across my skin, plucking hairs one by one. She tapped my forehead as a cue and I pull my skin taut above the eye. I do this again and again. In college, my sister's friend scanned my face and said, "Your eyebrows are thick. You need to take care of that." I have been self-conscious ever since. 2, when the mammogram tech berated me for not knowing how to position myself for the imaging, whenever she moved my arm, my whole body moved with it. She commanded me, "Stand still, stop moving." I really tried. "Not good," she muttered. "Feel like a dead body," I told myself, but I couldn't. At a follow-up scan a week later, another tech gently maneuvered me around the plates and apologized for every press. I wept and mumbled, "Thank you for being so nice." 3, when I accidentally stabbed my hand with the spines of a hanging dry blowfish in the hallway while doing stretches to regain mobility after the mastectomy. I yelped with surprise that blood drop formed on my finger, the only time that I heard post-surgery. 4, maybe the initial injection of the numbing medicine during the guided biopsy. The radiologist extracted over 30 samples of the worrisome masses one by one, each one sucked up by a thin needle into some collection device. He repeated, "You feel a bit of pressure." A nurse said, "We're doing so well," and placed her hand on my arm, but really the discomfort during the whole procedure was because I desperately needed to pee. 5, my dropping credit score after I opened 3 new credit cards in the span of several months for the sign-up bonus and to collect reward points for the incoming bills for the fertility preservation treatments, cancer treatments, co-pays, deductible, transportation, and medical supplies. 6, when I commuted 50 miles to and from fertility appointments every other morning over 4 weeks, all because my health plan didn't have the availability in the fertility centers in San Francisco. I woke up at 6 a.m., jammed myself on medication, and hustled to the car, worrying each time that I would miss my appointment as we weaved through the morning traffic. 7, the mini pinpricks during the nanoblading session for my eyebrows, because I was so certain that I was going to get Q1 in the next few plus the over 1,000 I spent, and of course, the mind-numbing elevator music of the spa. 8. After I asked a close friend directly for help, she texted back a jumble of words. I don't know anything about cancer. Don't you have close friends? It's my first time. I texted back, no worries, but my throat stiffened. I don't know anything about cancer either. It's my first time too. We aren't close friends anymore. 9. When I ran to the bedroom where Chris was working, wailing about what I had learned during the phone call, my guilt about adding a burden to his long list of recent tragedies, his mother's passing, our miscarriages, his traumatic brain injuries, and now my diagnosis. Going against common advice, that's when I began organizing an FAQ, a specific list of ways to help, and a form to send to over 75 friends and family members in an annual holiday newsletter. I still didn't feel better. 10. When I called the medical supply store yet again to get my entitled post-surgical camisole covered by insurance, their response is, sorry, we moved offices without notice. Sorry, the camisole's on the other side of the country. Sorry, you had a fire. Sorry, you had a water leak. I never got the camisole. Stop picking up their calls. 11. When they wheeled me through the automatic doors, flying through the fluorescent lights, and how I needed to know where everyone stood, what tools they used, what was on the monitors, and as they played Max Richter, my request over the speakers. Without my glasses, I couldn't see. A blurry face who I think is my surgeon says, hello, Jennifer. Then softer, fuzzier face says, you're in good hands, Jennifer, you're in good hands. Shift to your right, lie back. You feel something cold, you're going to get sleepy. We're going to take good care of you. I take one deep breath as I listen to the chatter around me, my tongue feeling something metallic, distorted playing violins breaking through the backdrop with a steady bass, and thoughts wind through me. Am I going to remember this? Am I supposed to be crying? Am I supposed to be afraid? Am I going to wake up? But in the end, as the world drifted away, all I can think is, get this thing out of me. Get it out. Get it out.
How did you come up with this format that you just read?
Well, so I think a question that people often ask is, was it painful? Did it hurt? And I really wanted to show that the most painful part was never actually the surgery itself. It was actually everything around it. For me, personally, it's more about the relationships, the ways that society is. So that's the reason I wrote this piece called 10 Moments I Felt Pain in the Last Year and 1 Moment Where I Didn't. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to quickly do some thank yous around like Robin and Lauren with the setup, just video and photos around, and also thank you all our readers. And also thank you to BAYS for supporting me. As you can imagine, 1 year ago, I think I woke up from the surgery and thought, can I do something like this? It was some crazy little idea that I had. So thank you for listening with such care, being witness like this. I think this is a song that probably played as I was going through surgery. It's really rare and it matters. And I would like to invite you now, if you wrote down a word or phrase or several lines that stay with you during the readings, we'll love to hear a few of your voices now. So if you come up, there's no pressure, just whatever lingered, just really curious about what stayed with you. And that's the way we will be closing this session. And afterwards, obviously stay, mingle, have a snack, and keep the conversations going. So if you like to come up to the side, whenever you're ready. You would like to say your name.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie. I'm part of BAYS. I was diagnosed last February with ITC at 29. I just turned 30 in September. And the line that really spoke to me is, I can no longer be the person I was. So in 2024, I got married to my husband. A month later, we moved here. from Michigan. And then about 6 months later, I'm diagnosed with cancer, and it has been hell of a first year of marriage. And it's just very freeing to hear that other people also feel that they aren't going to be who they were, but we can be who we are now, and we can forge a new path. And it's really helping to know that I'm not alone in this.
I think the phrase that resonated with me was the woman who said, "How will I tell my mother? I am the mother of a breast cancer survivor." And I remember once being in an automobile accident and having to make a phone call to tell my mother that, well, I'm still alive. But I can't tell you what a fabulous, wonderful organization BAYS was and how it really impacted my daughter's ability to continue.
Hi, I'm Cliff. Thank you for inviting me. I'm actually a medical doctor, and so I know what like DCIS and all this stuff means. But and I walk a lot of people through end of life and things like that, families and so on. And so, but in that role, like there's this pendulum of like having an arm's length of like in order to function, right? Like I have like there's the clinical side and the human side of things. So I just want to say thank you for bringing that pendulum back a little bit this way for me. I really appreciated the human rawness. I mean, I wrote down a bunch, but just a couple of things. I mean, I think presenter number 1 was talking about how like pants and underwear and socks can actually make you feel more naked. And you know, if I'm being exposed from the waist up, might as well be having comfortable boots. And you know, presenter number 2 was talking about like the whole build up. Right, the whole build up, and then at the end, oh, it's okay, consistent. And you know, I think presenter number 3 was saying like maybe I have cancer because of what I did, what I held on to at some point, at one time in the past. Just like the human processing of all this, right? And of course, like and just the finale of like the most painful parts was the medical procedures with the process and lost connections and unnecessary frustrations along the way. So thank you guys for sharing the space and helping me swing the pendulum back.
Is there anyone else who might be interested? Otherwise,
my name is Martha, and I am the stepmother of a cancer survivor. And I so loved everybody's pieces. I didn't know I was coming to such a spectacular reading. So I just want to share a couple of lines that really struck me. About signing in, this couplet, proving that I am me as if someone would want to take my place. And then about the apricot tree, little green ambassadors of hope. And then about the boomer. Nary a pine needle disturbed and like me given another chance. And then if I stand thus so at the window, there's an expansive view. So Those were just lines that struck me. Thank you all so much.
Hey, I probably don't know anybody here because this is my first time coming to an event in person. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you though. Great. Sorry. I guess like I don't have specific lines, but just a couple of the readings like stuck with me in certain ways. Like the first one about the radiation, because my name's Tamara. I'm 41. I got diagnosed like October 7th of this last year, and then I had surgery November 14th, double mastectomy, deep flat. I'm doing okay with that, but I had a bad surprise because I got a bad pathology report back, and I wasn't supposed to need anything besides surgery, but unfortunately I have to do radiation now. So I'm supposed to go for my mapping appointment on Tuesday, and I'm like really freaked about it, and I'm really worried because now I'm worried that I'm going to have a effed up boob and a nice boob, because this is the one that's got to get treated, and I'm like it's not fair. I hope it's not true that I only get to enjoy having two nice boobs reconstructed for 2 months before I have to sacrifice one, which I hope that won't be the case, but I'm really scared, and I'm not happy about the tattoos either, because I don't have any tattoos, and I didn't picture getting my first tattoos in this way, and I plan to get them laser removed as soon as I can, so it's been kind of hard. And then the one about the kitty, and I have 2 kitties, and one of them is like older, he's like 15, and I'm scared that maybe he has cancer because he's been getting sicker like the last couple months, and that's just hard because now I'm like, stressed about me and stressed about him at the same time. But anyways, I'm glad that this event exists, and I'm glad I was able to come. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Susan, and I'm a dear friend of a cancer survivor, Tova. And what I'm a big talker usually, but this day has brought me to silence. Beautiful writers, beautiful people, beautiful women. And what I'm really taking away is, like my experience with my great friend, she is so empathetic and so caring for everybody else. And she doesn't ever bring it up. And this idea of remembering that you have this like Damocles sword or whatever over you, right? You are always thinking what might happen in the future, that we need to just hold the space for our friends. And remember what they're going through. Even though they're not talking about it, they experience it every day. And I'm empathetic, but she's so good at just, being so wonderful with her friends and so positive that I forget to hold that space. And so I'm going to remember to do that from now on.
Thank you so much for coming, and that's the end of our program. I will ask the readers if you want to come up to take a photo, but thank you so much. Feel free to mingle, have snacks, ask us the questions that you always want to ask, and hear the things that we have always wanted to tell you. Thank you so much again. Different time.